So I have been talking about Laudato Si, and I told Pope Francis has provided a best bioethical document which teaches us how to preach to the good news to the whole of creation. So I want to quote some of the brilliant writings of Pope Francis. It is a kind of introduction to the encyclical Laudato Si, so that you will be provoked to go and read the document. It's a very interesting document and different from all other papal encyclicals. Very simple English, you can understand everything. And how soil, water, air, known as Panchabhutas in our culture, are valued by the church, by Christianity. One example I want to give you is Laudato Si, paragraph number 8. This will change your perception of what is sin is all about. So far we have been thinking that lying is sin, stealing is sin, greed is sin, sex is sin. That kind of understanding we had so far. But now it's going to really change your understanding what sin is all about. For human beings to destroy the biological diversity of God's creation, for human beings to degrade the integrity of the earth by causing changes in its climate, by stripping the earth of its natural forests or destroying its wetlands, for human beings to contaminate the earth's waters, its land, its air, and its life. These are sins. For to commit a crime against the natural world is a sin against ourselves and a sin against God. Very powerful teaching from Pope Francis and from the Mother Church. Francis has included both the parts of the natural world, the abiotic factors and the biotic factors. See here, abiotic parts I want to identify. You should also learn to identify them. See there, at the bottom of the slide, water, earth's waters, its land, its air, those are abiotic, non-living factors. And also little above, causing changes to its climate, that is also a biotic factor. But you find more biotic factors, the living parts of the natural world. See at the top, biological diversity, which includes all those 5 kingdoms of life. Yesterday, I enumerated all of them for you. Biological diversity, the short form is biodiversity, which includes all the plants and all the animals, including human beings. We belong to biodiversity. And the second paragraph you see there, stripping the earth of its natural forest. That is biotic part, forest. The wetlands, also biotic factors, because wetlands contain fish, plankton, algae, mollusk, amphibians, reptiles. So Pope Francis is bringing both the factors as one integral part. When we destroy anything of a biotic or biotic, they should be considered as sin. At the end of the paragraph, Pope is writing, to commit a crime against the natural world. Look at the word, crime. That is, goes much further than sin. Sin is always, you can get away with sin because you go to the Father, priest, and confess, and your sins are forgiven. It's very easy to do away with sins. But crime is not that easy. You have to pay your time. You have to be put in jail. Until you pay the last penny, you will not be liberated. You will not be free at all. So crime is a better word in order to educate the intensity of our actions against the natural world. So he says, Pope is telling, when you commit something against the natural world, it is against ourselves. First of all, you are committing a sin against yourself, crime against yourself, and the crime or the sin against God. So 3 relationships you are destroying here. I told you there are 3 level relationship with God, relationship with fellow humans, relationship with the whole of creation. So when you do a crime against the natural world, you are destroying all the 3 relationships. That is a very powerful writing from Pope Francis. This is Laudato Si, paragraph number 9. Actually, Bartholomew, there is a name there, don't get confused. He is a Eastern Church pontiff. Western Roman Catholic Church, we have Pope Francis as the supreme pontiff. For Eastern churches, Pope Bartholomew, he is the supreme pontiff. So actually, Bartholomew, he wrote the previous paragraph, that is Laudato Si, paragraph number 8. So Pope is just reiterating Bartholomew's writing. So Bartholomew writes further. I want to really read it for you. At the same time, Bartholomew has drawn attention to the ethical and spiritual roots of environmental problems. See, the word ethical is appearing here. Ethical and spiritual roots of environmental problems, which require that we look for solutions not only in technology but in a change of humanity. Otherwise, we would be dealing merely with symptoms. He asks us to replace consumption with sacrifice, greed with generosity, wastefulness with the spirit of sharing, and asceticism which entails learning to give and not simply to give up. So it's very important to note today's generation, they need to come out of consumption through the practice of sacrificing. Sacrifice is good. Your sacrifice can help other creatures to continue to live. The second is greed with generosity. Already you have enough resources. Be generous with your own resources. Don't be greedy to take resources from the planet Earth. Planet Earth resources are already exhausted. 80% of the resources already exhausted, lost to the planet forever. Only 20% of the resources remain on the planet. But we have resources. Each person has resources. Look inside of you. Your inner dimension contains empathy, mercy, love, hope, charity, forgiveness. You are rich. You are an ecosystem which contains hundreds of resources. Planet Earth contains only gold, silver, iron ore, fossil fuel, coal, all this kind of stuff. But your ecosystem is containing much more valuable resources which you can give to the planet. Stop taking from the planet, but start giving your resources to the planet. That is the new way of looking at environmental ethics. You give mercy to the planet. You give compassion to the planet. Now you show empathy to the planet. So that is what Bartholomew is writing. You have to replace greed with generosity, wastefulness with the spirit of sharing. How many resources are being wasted on the planet? Food, water, electricity, fuel. Instead of wasting them, can't we recycle them, reuse them, refunnel to the poor countries, to the poor people? There are so many people living in utter poverty. Your waste can be a treasure for them. Your waste can be a food for me. Your waste can be a drink for me. So today we have enough resources already plundered, extracted from the planet Earth, but it is accumulated in only few countries. Only they stay with few people. So that's why Bartholomew is calling, replace wastefulness with the spirit of sharing. Share the resources. You don't have to extract from the earth, you have to share. That's it. There are thousands of rich people on the planet and rich countries. They are hoarding billions of dollars, but they are not ready to share. So environmental ethics is appealing to these kind of people to share. Laudato Si, paragraph number 33. It's a brilliant writing. Pope is talking about value. Yesterday I was talking about intrinsic value and instrumental value. Pope Francis is writing as follows: it is not enough, however, to think of different species merely as potential resources to be exploited, while overlooking the fact that they have value in themselves. Pope is meaning about intrinsic value. When we look at mountains, we look as if it is something to be hammered, to be powdered, to be destroyed. That is how we look at the mountain. But no, when you look at a mountain, you should see as a temple of God. It is beyond economic calculus. It is not a commodity, it is a community to which we belong. The mountains are cathedrals. But you don't have to break that cathedral and you bring and construct a small cathedral. Why you think God is not a good mason? God is not a good engineer? He has constructed Himalayan cathedral. But you are going and chipping off Himalayan mountain and bringing and putting a small puny little cathedrals. How foolish you are. God doesn't need human engineers. He doesn't need human masons. He has constructed the most beautiful cathedral in the world, that is mountain. So that is the way you see value. When you compare our constructions, they are very, very primitive. When you compare the engineering of God, that is ultimate. We can't reach to that level. So, leave mountains as they are. Don't tamper with them. So the paragraph number 34, Pope Francis continues to write, we seem to think that we can substitute an irreplaceable and irretrievable beauty with something which we have created ourselves. That is what I told you just now. It is an irreplaceable and irretrievable beauty and engineering, the creation of Himalayas or Western Ghats or Eastern Ghats or Nilgiri mountains or Ooty mountains or Uttarakhand mountains. All these are greatest engineering from God. But something which we have created ourselves, we want to replace them with human ingenuity, with our human engineering. It doesn't look beautiful at all. No. So leave them. So environmental ethics teaches us to find everything, to find the natural beauty, and you can't replace it with human engineering. We fail each time. Now I'm going to talk about common ethical principles in environmental ethics. So I'm going to skip 5 slides because it's going to be confusing for you. The common ethical principles, they fall under 4 categories, all right? 4 categories. In a moment, I'm going to show them to you. Before that, I want to talk about a famous historian called Lynn White Jr. Lynn White Jr. He wrote an article in 1967 titled Historical Roots of Our Ecological Crisis. Excellent article. I mean, this is one of the best articles ever written in the human history. This is an article on which most of the PhD theses are made. There are many PhD doctors in environmental ethics, ecology, geology. All those PhD doctors have researched on this article. This article is only about 12 or 13 pages. That's it. You can download this article today after classes. Historical Roots of Our Ecological Crisis, 1967. You type Lynn White Jr. and you get the article and you take a photocopy of it and you go and read it. Maybe in the future your PhD thesis you can do on this article. So actually this article is brilliantly written. Actually he was pointing out that Abrahamic religions, you know Abrahamic religions? Christianity, Islam and Judaism. These are known as the Abrahamic religions. So these religions, they are the main cause for the ecological crisis. So are you shocked? Christianity, Islam and Judaism, these 3 religions have caused damage to the natural world. That is what Lynn White Jr. is writing in his Historical Roots of Our Ecological Crisis article. He says Christianity bears a huge burden of guilt. What we do about ecology depends on our ideas of the man-nature relationship, he writes later. More science and technology are not going to get us out of the present ecological crisis until we find a new religion or rethink our old ones. He says, Abrahamic religions taught about dominion. That is the word D-O-M-I-N-I-O-N, 8-letter word, which was the cause for all the destruction of the natural world. That word we find in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 26, where God gives you dominion. So we have misinterpreted dominion. The meaning what we gave is controlling, exploiting, destroying, pillaging. This is the kind of interpretation we have been giving to the word dominion. So Christianity, they talked about dominion, controlling the earth, controlling humans, controlling science and technology, and encouraging capitalism. And dominion means that white people are superior than black people. Rich people are more powerful than poor people. The Western world, the Christian countries are rich because of dominion teachings. They went and started colonialism, and they extracted natural resources from all other countries and they brought it to Europe. And their civilization flourished, and the colonial nations like India, Africa, all of them have been destroyed in the process. On the other hand, historian Lynn White Jr., in a much cited essay published in 1967 on the historical roots of the environmental crisis, argues that the main strands of Judeo-Christian thinking had encouraged the overexploitation of nature by maintaining the superiority of humans over all forms of life on earth, and by depicting all of nature as created for the use of humans. White's thesis is widely discussed in theology, history, and has been subject to some sociological testing, as well as being regularly discussed by philosophers. Yes. This article is a very important article because this article provoked religious leaders, especially the Christian leaders, Islamic leaders, Judaism leaders, and they examined their scriptures, their doctrine, their teachings. First, they rejected Lynn White Jr.'s article. It's totally false. It's wrong. But slowly, they read the article again and again. They found truth in it. And they accepted. Yes, we have been misinterpreting scriptural text anthropocentrically. Anthropocentrism. So that's why we ended up in this big mess called ecological crisis. So let us create some environmental ethics notes and also bioethical documents on which our followers can interact with the natural world. So that's how environmental ethics is born. Bioethics is born. Laudato Si encyclical is also an outcome of these efforts. So now I am going to give you 4 kinds of ethics that is in the current use. I summarized all the ethics from different religions, philosophies, theologies, even traditional and tribal ethics. I grouped them into 4 categories or 4 models. 4 models. Number 1 is dominion model ethics. Number 2 is stewardship model ethics. The third is creation-centered model ethics. The last one is deep ecology model ethics. So if you learn these 4 models, you will have an overall view of what environmental ethics is all about. So are you ready to go further?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Number 1, dominion model ethics. It's based on Genesis chapter 1 verses 26, where we read that God gave dominion to first humans, because humans are created in the image of God. The dominion is given to control the birds of the air, fishes of the sea, animals of the land. Unfortunately, the dominion word is misinterpreted. Also was misinterpreted. The dominion interpretation was that we are the image of God and we have got the right. God has given the license to go and destroy. It is a human dominion. That is what the interpretation is all about. Human dominion means controlling, destroying, abusing, pillaging. So this is a human dominion it's all about. But God's dominion is different from human dominion. God's dominion is mercy, compassion, forgiveness, empathy, sharing, being tolerant, patient, kindness. See? Completely different from human dominion. Human dominion is a disastrous note. God's dominion is a creating note or a benign note. So 2000 years, the past 2000 years, we have been giving only human dominion interpretation. That is where we went 100% wrong. But we need to go back and look into the God's mindset about His dominion. So that is the dominion what we need to cultivate, of caring, of loving, of protecting, conserving, herding, blending. You know Psalm number 23. The Lord is my good shepherd, I shall not fear. So that is a good example to understand what God's dominion is all about. He takes the sheep to the green pastures where there is water, where there is rest. Wow! You read it in order to understand what God meant when He gave the commandment, I give you the dominion. But we have misunderstood completely. So dominion model ethics for the past 2000 years was seen that earth is the source of all value. Earth contains lot of resources. Let us go and take it, take it, take it. That is the interpretation of dominion, what we have understood so far. Earth looks like a Alibaba cave. Alibaba and 40 thieves. You know that Arabian Night story. So earth looks like Alibaba cave. And you go and take whatever you want. Anda kaham abukasum terandagidi say. Anda kasa abukasum moodigidi say. That is the way we went and took all the resources from the Alibaba cave. Alibaba cave unfortunately is small, But now there are not only 40 thieves, there are 8 billion thieves on the planet. So 8 billion thieves can't enter into a small Alibaba cave. There are no resources left there. So we have been taught that you take from the earth as many resources as possible. The earth is made for humans alone because you are image of God. So it is a extremely anthropocentric view. See, I put it there, extremely anthropocentric. Dominion model ethics is extremely anthropocentric. Pope calls it modernity is marked by excessive anthropocentrism in chapter 3. Modernity is marked by an excessive anthropocentrism. Yeah, because human species is very important. That is what we have been taught. And we are the superior species. We are the jewel of creation. Everything is created for humans. Take it, take it, take it, and take it. Humans feel rightfully to exploit nature. God is giving dominion in the verse of Genesis chapter 1, that is verse 26. And again he is repeating in the verse 28. Again he says, I give dominion. 2 times. So man is provoked naturally. He is encouraged. 2 times God is giving license. Dominion. Go and take it. So man is understanding that through subjugating and empowering nature, I can fulfill the commandment of God. He gave me dominion. If I don't exercise it, I may end up in sinful state. So let me use my license. So exploiting and subjugating Mother Earth. There are so many things happened in the past in the Christian church. Colonialization, slavery, deforestation, poaching, now economic growth, globalization, markets, the first world, second world, third world, the classification. Now the West or North and South. North is very rich, South is very poor. High economic growth countries, low economic growth. Capitalism. All these factors are outcome of dominion model ethics. Dominion model ethics has resulted in exhaustion of the natural resources and destruction of biodiversity, pollution of water, pollution of land, pollution of life, pollution of air, and at last, pollution of the mind, the science and technology. So this is what the status quo, the present condition, as a result of dominion model ethics. See, high economic growth, the last word I have written. Today, no country wants to be low economic growth level, no? India used to be in the low economic growth level some 20 years ago. Our GDP, the gross domestic product, was much lower, maybe like 4-5%. But now today we have increased to 7 to 9%. Every country on the planet is obsessed with the GDP, that is dominion model ethics. Chapter 1, Genesis, verse 26 again. Today we are blindly following without examining the text and without revisioning the text, without reinterpreting it. We are simply following dominion model. Okay, go and take resources from other countries and let us do business. There is no ethical note followed in the doing of businesses, production, distribution, markets, consumption, all of them out of ethical note. There is no ethics there. Our computers, our cell phones, our military equipment, aeroplanes, they are not screened by environmental ethics. No, they are above environmental ethics. There is no control. We produce without any ethical notes.